Hey, and welcome to Hank's True Barbecue. Now, I have a Tomahawk, I have a Parrilla, so let's cook. Now, why did I pick this grill? Well, I'm really a big fan of it, I really like it. It's a nice way of grilling, but also I wanted to show you how do we cook a steak that's really thick without getting it too dry. So this is kind of an intermediate between the traditional reverse sear and high direct heat grilling. But first, let's get that fire going. So I'm waiting for the fire to catch up. We're gonna build some nice charcoal glowing embers and use a shovel to move it around, get it over here to the cooking area. So why did I choose a Parrilla? Well, like I said before, traditionally when you cook a really thick steak, you don't want it to dry out. So a really helpful way to do that is the reverse sear, where you cook it on indirect low heat for like an hour in this case. And then sear it right at the end. That keeps it really juicy and you avoid all that gray banding. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to do something in between hot and fast. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cook it over direct heat, but low direct heat. That means I can leave it on for like, I'm guessing an hour also, we'll see. But it's not going to get dried out. At the same time, we're going to build a nice charred surface. So it's going to look good and it's going to taste good. I think this is a really good intermediate step. And a great way of cooking and a fun way of cooking on a Parrilla, so let's get started. Now, while I'm adding splits here, I'm using birchwood, by the way, because I have it in abundance and it's really good for building that glowing ember charcoal. Let's talk a bit about the steak. Now, the Tomahawk, well, actually there are quite a few different steaks: porterhouse, T-bone, club steak, tomahawk, cowboy, etc. So starting from the rear of the cow, first you have the porterhouse, then comes the T-bone. The T-bone is a porterhouse, but the porterhouse isn't a T-bone. It all has to do with how large a portion of the tenderloin is on the left, well, it depends, left or right side of the T-bone. Now moving forward to the club steak, you can see the major difference is really that the T-bone has, of course, like a T-bone shaped bone, whereas the club steak is more like L-shaped. And it's the same for this one. I have it underneath on the shelf waiting to get cooked. Now, this is basically the same, but you have this long rib bone attached, so it looks good. It's like has a nice presentational effect. That's called a tomahawk. Now, if you just cut the bone a bit short, then you have what's called a cowboy steak. Now, I don't know if there's some kind of Indians and Cowboys game to this whole naming scheme, but that's the way it is. So a tomahawk is effectively identical to a cowboy steak. The only difference is the length of the rib bone attached. So anyhow, that's what we're going to cook today. It's a nice handle, not only for cooking, but for eating. And it's a really good steak. Just going to serve it with some salt, flaked sea salt, and a glass of wine, of course. That's all you need, really: wine, salt, and beef. Also, while building the fire here, I'm going to add some of the leftover charcoal from the other day's cook. It always helps. I found it's a really good way of reusing leftover charcoal in the kettle, etc. Just dump a few here and then keep shoveling the glowing embers that drop down beneath my brasero. So it's going to be a good day outside. So we've been going for a while. I just moved some of the thinner splits over, so waiting for the flames to die out here, and then we're gonna get the tomahawk on. Now we have a nice coal bed going, so time to get that steak on. I'm gonna flip it regularly and check for temps here. If it's getting too hot, I'll simply move it off the side a bit. Time for the first flip. Oh, that's looking good, but it's going to take quite a bit longer. This is just the surface area, so looks like it's running just a bit hot, so I'm going to move it off the side just a bit after I've seared, given a little bit heat on the underside. And I'm going to move it over a bit now. I want it to raise temp slowly, surely, so we can keep all the moisture in there. So that's why I'm moving it to the side for a while. Part of the deal of managing a fire is you don't just have to wait for all the glowing embers to drop down. You can actually take, what I do is like really thin splits and move them over when there's still a bit left to go on them. I think that's a nice way of quickly boosting temp here if you need to, but also keeping this fire going. Or part of a pitmaster's job. So now while the steak's cooking, I'm just gonna enjoy a nice glass of red wine. Should be good with the, while waiting for the steak. Worse days than these, definitely. This is a nice way to hang out in the garden. Cheers. Alright, time for a quick close-up looking at the steak now. You can see the charred surface is coming along nicely. This is what I really like about what I call medium heat direct grilling. Because you can still control temps quite a bit by moving it around, and also we're building that bark or surface over time instead of doing it in 1 minute. So this is a great way of cooking the steak, slowly but surely. See, the surface is developing nicely. At the same time we're bringing it up in temp, not too fast, so we keep it moist and juicy. This is going to be some good eating. So while waiting for the steak to get done, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you have friends that enjoy barbecue and grilling, please let me know my channel exists, and get them to subscribe too. Much appreciated. Thanks. Steak's looking good. I think we're getting close to done. I'm aiming for 135 Fahrenheit, which is like 57, 58 Celsius. It's a bit different depending on where I check, of course, but I think we're ready to slice it and give it a good taste. It's looking gorgeous, by the way. Check that out. Beautiful. Now, as always, before slicing this bad boy up, I'm just gonna let it rest here for 5 to 10 minutes. Should be good. Alright, so I don't think I can wait any longer, so it's time to slice this one. Now, as for the direction, it doesn't matter on a steak like this because the muscle fibers run in this direction, so slice it any way you want. Oh, that's looking good. It's looking pretty darn near perfect if you ask me. Beautiful. Sweet. Alright, I'm gonna have to add some salt to this. Flake sea salt, it's always good. See what this tastes like. Alright. Super tender, really good, very moist. It's a great way of cooking medium heat because you retain all that moisture. Oh, amazing. I think I'm just gonna keep eating here, but thank you for watching. You gotta try this. I'm gonna cook this more often. Superb meal, just right. Like I said, beef, salt and wine. What else? All right, see you guys.